Welcome to the most overrated, underappreciated, most viewed, underviewed podcast of all time. Welcome to, that's right, the Prince of Fresh Air. This is your host, Mr. No Days Off, aka the most charismatic man in entertainment, with a special guest, producer and director by day, dad by night. My guy, the man that helped change my life, Jared Barrow. How you doing?
Hey, what's up, man? I got to make a correction right away. It's Burrell, man.
Burrell. Oh, I didn't know
Burrell.
that. I
That's
always
it.
said, even during the Incoherents days, I always say Barrow. I don't know why. I was just thought.
It's such a common thing. It's like whatever. I'm used to it. But if we're gonna do one-on-one, I got to correct you.
You believe this guy? No,
I know, I know. Fame's gone to my head. Well, all your listeners and viewers are saying, "Who is this guy?"
Hey, it's not wrong with that. It's not wrong with that. Hey, we all been there. I've been there. I'm still not at the Chris Hemsworth level, but we all we're working. So
Well, you're growing out the hair. You're getting there.
that's true. People recognize me for it. So I'm not cutting it no time soon. It's part of the brand, I should say. But anyway, this is not about me. This is about you. I wanna talk about you. So like I said, just to clarify, when I said change my life, working on the Incoherents, which is a amazing movie, which is also available on Epics. That was my first time doing anything related to film or TV because I've been a theater actor for the
Oh, really?
longest. Yeah, so for me, it was not just you, but the whole cast and your brother as well. You welcomed me.
I got to pause you for a second. He appreciates the shout out. He gives me crap every time I do an interview or something. I don't mention Jordan.
No.
So Jordan Burrell, producer of the Incoherents, changed this man's life.
Absolutely, yeah. So you guys, it was a 1 day thing, and then I started. I became friends with you guys, and then you was like, hey, you know what? Keep coming, and we'll use you. And then that was the first time I ever got experience in TV and film. Got my first credit from that,
Awesome.
and it was a great experience. So
I'm glad.
absolutely. So
I'm glad. And
let's
for
start.
all the viewers at home, if you go and you watch the Incoherents, Percy is in the back of almost every single shot. That's the fun of indie films. It's we were so happy anybody wanted to be in it.
Absolutely.
Especially when you're looking at background players and stuff like that. It's that's one of the things I didn't even realize was going to be a challenge was really filling the background stuff and having people who were like really excited to be there because it's a long day. It's a hard, even if you're doing, a smaller job on it, it's hard to be working all day. So like, you were so enthusiastic that, it was certainly like, hey, that guy is we used to joke on set that you were the Incoherence #1 fan because you would be on every time we had a show that you were there on set. So like, it really does. It warms my heart to hear that had like an actual impact on your life. And having become friends with you online and watching what you've been doing and stuff, it seems like you've been making like a lot of headway. You've been hustling, and I'm proud of you.
Yeah, it's been a journey, moving to LA. I want to keep this on you, but just a little bit. I moved to LA
We can make it about
mostly.
both of us.
Yeah, yeah, true,
Mutual respect here. I like it.
but I want your perspective and advice because I know there's a lot of people in the industry that'll listen to this and need guidance and help, which is why I started YouTube as well because moving to LA last year made me realize that you know what, my career is my #1 priority. I can't be sitting around waiting for opportunities to come. So I want to give the platform for people like you and myself, and for other people who are pursuing the career, who's already in the career or don't know where to start. We could all always learn from somebody.
Absolutely.
But anyway, I digress. Let's. So I said let's talk about you for a little bit. So besides the Incoherence, how did you get involved in the entertainment business? Was it easy? Was it rough?
It's just funny, like, to say, was it, as if it was like a past tense thing. I don't even know that I'm still in the entertainment business yet. It's just, when are you in it?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's been, let's say that way, not it was, but it's been, it's a hard ride, man. It's really taxing. It's one of those things that, some people, can I curse on this podcast?
Freedom of speech.
Good. Some people step in shit, and they
Yeah.
step in the best shit, and you go like, how have you done all these things? I mean, it's impressive, it's incredible. But Jordan and I mean, we've been hardcore hustling for 15 years now. I mean, technically more, but you know, we sort of put our first foot forward. It's 15 years. So it's kind of insane to me that it took 15 years for us to release our first film.
Right.
When we started, we were making comic books. I had let me make as long a story as short as possible. But I did a short film in graduate school. I went to graduate school for design, and
Okay.
in that process, while I was going to school for design, I had made some shorts and stuff in college. And my brother and his friends wanted to make a movie that they were going to write because they wanted to be actors. So that was their thought
Right.
process. Like, let's make a movie that we can act in. And they said, well, we want Jared to direct it because he's the only one who's ever directed anything. So I made, a music video or two and a little short in college. And that film never happened. But it was like Inception. They accepted this idea in my head about being the director. And while I'm in school for design, I said, like, I really want to do this. And so I made my thesis a film for design school, which is where I met Alex Emanuel, who's also the producer, one of the producers on the Incoherents, and plays Jimmy, Anthony, wrote on music and stuff. Because I cast him in that, and that's how we got friendly and met. But that short film started going out to a couple of producers and stuff, just people who someone knew or whatever, and people liked it. And this is 2005. And we sort of like jumped from there. It's always the producer drama and stuff. We sort of learned early that not all producers are there to help you. They're sort of there to help themselves. And
Absolutely.
it didn't, things didn't really move that quickly or anything really happened with that short and what we were talking about with it. But we said, you know what? This is sort of the direction we wanted to go. We had this idea for a comic book called Brielle and the Horror, and we wanted to make it a movie. So we said, let me rephrase that. We had an idea for a movie called Brielle and the Horror about this girl with these powers and stuff before it was cool to make comic books and make comic book movies. And we said, let's go make a comic book. Let's take the art skills and design skills and all that stuff. Let's take our writing skills. Let's make a comic book and then use that as a pitch piece. And so we did, and we brought it to New York Comic Con in 2007. And it blew up. Like people, I mean, on a relative level, we sold something like 1,000 comics in one weekend. We ended up getting signed to a manager. We had a big shot producer signed to this movie. And it looked like we were going to be like overnight successes. We were talking about actually me directing this film for $30 million with major production companies. And it was incredible. It looked like we were going to be that overnight success. Like that was the dream. Like, this is easy. We got it. Right. Like we thought we stepped in shit. That good shit. What happened? Writer's strike, the market crash in 2008. Nothing ever manifested from it. So, we went from like, all right, we're going to be overnight successes to chasing these smaller budgets. We made another graphic novel. Like, oh, maybe we could do that for 5 to 10 million. Like, I mean, it was a different time,
Right.
But, they kept chasing and chasing and chasing until at some point I was attached to a handful of these little films that were anywhere from $100,000 to $300,000. We got, I think we had sold one of our ideas. We got sold or hired to return into a screenplay, which was nice to get paid a little bit. That fell apart. Like all these things fell apart. And in 2012, Alex, who at that point I had called up to be in every little trailer and little short film, he was like, it's time to return the favor. My friend Jeff wrote this thing called the Incoherents, and we want to make a short film to help promote it. Can you help us out? Can you shoot it? So Jordan and I shot it. It was, I think we spent like $300 was the total budget for this little short. It was like, I don't even remember, it was 7 minutes, 10 minutes. It depends on the edit. I think there were a handful of edits, but we spent an afternoon. We shot with the 4 guys who were in the band in the film. And I loved it. I thought it was just hilarious. It was super funny. It was just off the cuff. It was raw. The direction was really simple because the guys were just playing off each other really well. and it was a different thing for me to do like comedy stuff. Like most of my stuff is like genre stuff, like, you know, comic kind of stuff, horror, sci-fi, those kinds of things. And if I'm talking a million miles an hour, I did just have a child and I have not slept. So I am on like so much caffeine right now to like try. So if I'm
Focus.
buzzing off the
It's
walls,
all good. It's
that's
all
it.
no judgment over here.
Um, anyway, so as I said, I was attached to a bunch of different things, and I had flown out to LA. This was back in New Jersey, and I was trying to pitch some different projects that I was working on. I went to like the American film market, trying to meet people and network and stuff. And while I was there, I was like, this is kind of silly. I don't have necessarily the scripts for some of these things. I really enjoyed that short. People are enjoying it. We had just finished it. So I called Jeff while I was out here and I said, can you send me the script? I'd like to read it, the full thing. And I read it. I fell in love with it. I thought it was just, it hit home. As someone that played in bands and stuff my whole life, it was like this story about these middle-aged guys who, you know, time had just taken away their band and they were looking to, you know, start it up again and trying to convince each other to do it.
Right.
I mean, I have those conversations. We just had it the other day because my brother and now my brother-in-law were my band back in college. And we've been talking every time we get together, we talk about getting the band back together. So this thing hit really home. And I thought that there were some moments that were like straight out of my life in certain respects and just things that I could relate to. And I said, Jeff, I'd like to make this movie. And I'd like to say then the rest was history, but the rest took 8 years to, you know, between cutting different versions of the short, different trailers to try and promote and raise money. You know, we nickeled and dimed this thing until there was like finally enough money, not to do it, but to start. And so we started like with a 1 weekend shoot to try and get some footage to get more people to, so it was like, it was a weird process of building this little movie until finally it was done. And here it is.
Yeah, successful. Yeah, it's, you know, the reason why I wanted you on here, because I know for a lot of people, for a lot of actors, you know, we've all been through that struggle. But I think there's not an emphasis put on people like you who are behind the camera. People don't know what it's like to be a director, a producer, to carry different hats off camera, because, you know, this industry is more focused on the people on camera, but I like the behind the scenes aspect. And the reason why I always talk about the Incoherents, obviously because, you know, it's your project, but because it was such an amazing experience for me to not only, yeah, it was an absolute opportunity to not only meet Walter. I'm going to forget everybody's name.
No worries. I don't
But
remember his name.
Walter Hoffman and Alex Emmanuel.
Alex Mann, Jeff Hour, Casey Clark, you guys played the band. Yep.
They were amazing. And but then I also got to meet you, your brother, the director of photography. I believe his name was John, right? Was it?
Yep, John Hudak Jr.
John, yeah. And I think it's important for people to understand what your role is. So my next question for you would be is, what is some things or misconceptions about being a director, producer, or someone behind the camera that people have? Or, you know, just a brief description of, you know, what your role in a film or TV show is.
Misconceptions. That's an interesting question. I don't know what people's conceptions are to say what they're wrong about. But it seems like from your experience that where you are in the industry as an actor, you're not exposed as much to the struggles of maybe the crew side of it. But it's I mean, it's a similar beast. You know, you're only as good as your last project, and you're always like, I started my career, if you can call it a career, you know, it's kind of the same way that as an actor is looking for that right casting agent or to get in the right room, right? Like I'm always trying to get in the right room. Who's the right person that's going to be like, oh my God, this guy's got the talent, he's got the chops, he knows what he's doing. And he's someone that we want to work with, and he's got a great story, he's got a great this, like, let's take him and help him. Because the biggest challenge for any project, and it's more so now, it's even harder now, is really finding funding, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, I always say, like, I mean, I have a camera sitting here, like, you know, go out and shoot, go and do whatever you can. But at some point when you want to level up and you want to make a movie, you want to do something big, like, it costs money to do these things, and it's hard. And today, you know, it used to be, I think here's a misconception, because it used to be, you know, like, I grew up in an era of, like, you know, Robert Rodriguez and and Christopher Nolan doing these like teeny tiny $7,000 feature films that get blown up and people are like, oh my God, wow. And there is a certain wow factor to the fact that these things got made. And it's like so impressive. Like, you had $7,000, you did what? And today, with technology, I think technology has advanced so much that it's a lot easier to make film, which is great.
Right.
I think it's one of the reasons why the Incoherents was as successful an artistic project as it was, and as became something that we could all be proud of filmically, something that really feels like a quote unquote real movie. Due to it's a lot easier to do that stuff, but since it is a lot easier, it's less impressive. So the idea that you did something, having done something in the past, maybe, and not even that long ago, just a few years ago, may have been enough to get you to do the next thing.
Right.
I'll be honest, I just made my first movie. We just released it, got a distribution deal with Gravitas. Now maybe releasing it during a pandemic has something to do with this, but I have no idea how my next movie is getting off the ground. And that's the reality of the situation. There aren't a lot of like, the next audition for a director. Everybody's a director because they say they're a director, So, for me, if there is a conception that you've done something, you can do the next one just because, maybe you can, maybe some people do. I have no idea how. So yeah, the onus of how to get to the next step is just, there's always a next step that you're always trying to figure out.
Right. Yeah. This is a little minor thing, but I remember my senior year of college, 2018, I had to do a capstone for theater. And this was my first time ever stepping out the limelight. Well, I won't say limelight, but outside of being on stage. And I had to find a script, break down a script, direct the play. And then, obviously I had to, send it out and market it. And it was the most brutal experience I ever had. It was fun, don't get me wrong, but it really made me change my perspective on directors, because for me, when I first started out, I'll be honest, I used to think, oh, directors are just people who just tell actors what to do and they get paid. And then as I started climbing up the ranks a little bit, I realized it's much more than that, because like you said, you never know when your next project is coming from. So you have to be able to deliver a great project in order to continue getting those projects. I never thought about it like that. I always thought acting was that way, where you have to have momentum. I thought directing was just, okay, well, we like you, so we'll just have you, direct a movie.
I mean, I assume that if someone somewhere likes me, someone will be like, hey, that's the next one. But what's interesting to your point, I guess the idea of like, oh, you get to just tell actors what to do or tell the camera person what to do and all those things. Director on the Incoherents, producer on the Incoherents, but there are 3 other producers on there. And, we had our writer was a producer. So like there's, you're wearing all these hats and you're doing all this work, but at the same time, like, it's not a dictatorship. I don't get to, in this project, I didn't get to just come in and say like, I'm doing what I want to do. Right. Everybody piss off. There's always someone that you need to be collaborating with or making happy or whatever it is. When I'm not directing like narrative stuff, I often have the opportunity to direct music videos and things.
Right.
Music video is a great example of like, what I want to do is not necessarily what the artist wants. I directed a music video last year that was like a no budget kind of thing that it didn't mesh with what the artist wanted. And we took a video and we just scrapped it and we just did something else. I liked it, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, I'd imagine that at some point you reach a level where I don't know that everybody ever, says to a Spielberg or a Scorsese or any of those guys and says like, no, we don't like it, change it. But I don't know. Maybe one day someone will say like, you do whatever you want.
Yeah, I think
sometimes it happens. I have to be honest. Sometimes I've gotten lucky.
I think, once you get to a certain point, like when you become like an A-list director or celebrity, you kind of get that right. But I want to switch gears a little bit and ask you. So obviously
Sure.
we're in a pandemic. The entertainment industry is very slow right now. It's still shut down. For you, how have you stayed motivated during this time? And how do you feel about the current state of the business? Because I know movie theaters are in fear that they may not survive this pandemic. A lot of studios don't have big budgets anymore. But obviously, besides Marvel and Disney, but a lot of like the independent uh, movie st- uh, movie companies don't have the big budgets that they used to or the backing. So, what is your take on that? Like, how do you feel about the current state of things? And
Uh, I mean, the current state of things is, I mean, I think there's a lot of news about the entertainment industry in particular because it's entertainment and it's movies and everybody has that touches everybody to some degree.
right,
But I'd say that it's not an isolated thing for the entertainment industry at the moment. I think there are probably a lot of industries that are scratching their head, wondering like, how do we move forward? Are we going to move forward? At one point, does this go back to normal? Is there a normal to go back to? Is there a new normal that we're going to? I mean, watching now just the shift from these major theatrical releases that aren't doing well to streaming releases, and then the question of prices and how that all affects it. It's an interesting moment. I don't know that I have any answers for where it's going to go. I could say that like we had our release date of April 28th, and we released VOD. Um, that happened before, like we had a release date before the pandemic was a thing. And at first, working with our marketing team and just internally, we were saying maybe this is a great thing. Like everybody's at home,
right,
and we don't have Friday night going to the movies to compete with, and maybe this is an equalizer for indie films. But
right,
then it turns out that all these majors are releasing their films digitally also, and then it became like no, this space that we had less competition with, I think now we have more competition with.
right,
So
right.
I don't know. I and to your question, like how do you stay motivated? I'll be honest, I've been trying to write different screenplays and stuff for the next project. I spent this summer writing and illustrating my first children's book. Um,
Nice, congrats.
I thanks. I don't know. I don't know what's coming and what's next. And I'll be honest, as a first time director and producer with this feature film that just came out, um, you know, it's a lot of moving your career forward is about timing.
Right,
You do something and then you got the next thing ready to go, and somebody's there to like it, and like you start talking, and you're hustling and moving. There's who do we hustling with? Everybody's
right.
locked at home. Nobody's doing anything. Everybody's got a question mark about where this industry is going. And I said, I got to take a step back. I did also, we just had our son a couple of weeks ago, and I was thinking to myself, the content that I'm making, my son's never going to be able to enjoy, or at least
Right.
not for a few years. So I said, you know what, I'd like to make something for him. So that for me artistically was a great way to move forward and keep motivating and keep telling stories. But I've started and stopped like half a dozen screenplays, so I don't know. Meanwhile, my brother's been writing his butt off, so I guess different strokes for different folks.
So actually, since you brought up congrats on the birth of your son, and I know how
Thank you.
much of a proud dad you are. Now that's a good thing I want to touch on, because I know in this industry, for a lot of people who have kids, for a lot of parents, they do find it hard to balance the parent life and the career life. Even though your son is still a newborn in a sense, do you find it hard? It might just be different because of the pandemic, but do you find yourself um, kind of having to choose one over the other or something like that?
I mean, I don't know that I can super accurately answer the question because my son is literally 2 weeks old. I can tell you I have not been able to do anything. That how hard it was to schedule this. My wife's out on a walk with our son now, and she had a couple dings, I think was my text message interrupting our interview, saying that he's having a temper tantrum and she's having trouble walking. I'm like, I can't. So I don't know that I can necessarily answer that too accurately, but I can say that um, I had in my head all these things that I wanted to accomplish before he was born. And, I wanted to finish that children's book. I had a delusion that I was also going to finish the screenplay. I had some music I've been recording and working on. I wanted to finish a few things. I finished the book, which was that's a major accomplishment. But I nothing else. And he came. He was due a week later, 5-6 days later than he came. And again, I still held in my head the delusion that in those 5-6 days, I was going to write a screenplay and record an album. You know, coming into fatherhood, I think maybe even subconsciously, consciously, I don't know. I was thinking, you know, all right, we got to figure out how to do this as best we can so that I can go back to work and writing and my next project and this and that. I'm not gonna lie, now that he's here, I don't care. I just want to be with him, you know, and you know, take care of him and do what I can to make him happy, and that's it. I'm gonna have to soon figure out how to balance work and life and parenthood and all that stuff. Right. But I think I took advantage over the summer of this pandemic and said, like, listen, when ever have I taken a break? Never. Like I working, like literally I have worked 20 hours a day for longer than I can remember before this thing. Right. You know, balancing making a movie that, you know, I was putting money into, I was getting paid for. So balancing that with clients, you know, and then balancing clients with other clients and all this stuff. And, you know, with this hit, it was like, all right, there's no more clients, there's no more industry, there's no more nothing. The movie's released, everything's done. Now I'm sitting here twiddling my thumbs. Like the first time in longer than I can remember that I'm rested. And then that longer than I can remember that I could do a project for myself. And I took on this children's book that I've been wanting to do for a long time, make a children's book. So to be able to do that, I have no idea what the hell we're talking about anymore. But I guess what I'm saying is I at this moment moving forward, I'm going to accept the fact that we're still in this pandemic and not worry so much about what the next thing is and really focus on just my family and you know, try to make us all happy. And at some point as the industry wraps, you know, starts revving up again, hopefully, and whatever else, you know, hopefully there will be something else. There will be something next, and then I can answer more better. Perfect. I'm tired. I can answer better how to balance everything. As my wife walks in and I can hear Jasper, my son.
You know, it's funny because you said that it was hard for us to plan this, and I'll be honest, I've had more trouble getting other actors or people who don't have kids to get an interview with them. And you still showed up. So I mean, hey, I think that's a achievement in your hat, if I should say that.
Fair. Well, you know, I mean, I had such a personal impact on your life and career. How could I say no?
Well, let's not get carried away here now. I give him one compliment, he runs away with it. No. Hey. I got to bust your chops. I
have a 2-week-old screaming in my face all day. I'll take the compliment and run with it.
All right, perfect. Works for me. So, you know, I won't keep this too long because I know I don't want your wife to kill you. But, you know, as someone behind the camera, as a director and producer, I know this is a common question for a lot of actors is that, you know, what do you look for when you have actors in front of you? Like, any pet peeves or characteristics that you think is very vital for actor success or something like that?
So that's a good question. You know, funny enough, I never thought of myself as a quote unquote actor's director. I always thought like the visuals were my strong points were, and Alex had forwarded me a compliment from some of the actors that were on set who had said like, wow, Jared's a real actor's director. And I said, right. Wow, really? That's cool. That was a really great compliment to me. Right. What I tend to look for and look at is there's always this thing that I say, I try not to say it directly to an actor, but when I'm assessing a performance or whatnot, I can see you acting. If I can see you acting, then we have a problem. And what I mean by that is, you know, if I'm looking at the camera and I see the performance and it feels like you're performing, you're acting, and I don't see the character, I don't see, you know, this thing that was on paper coming to life, I see someone saying lines, like that's a problem. Right. And you can see that in certain films, major films. Now, part of that is on the director, right? Like part of that is how you capture a performance. And you can certainly capture a great performance and make it look like you can see them acting. But a really great performance matched with the right capturing of it, you see a character, you see your story unfolding, and that's really what you need to see. It's distracting to see a performance that doesn't feel natural, that feels like someone's saying lines. And I think that's a big problem with a lot of indie productions, is that, listen, it's just less experienced actors and less experienced crew and less experienced filmmakers. And so you're mismatching, a not wonderful performance with a not great capturing of it. And so it becomes distracting. You lose the story, you lose the film that you're trying to watch, and you start seeing production. It's kind of akin to like, if you're in the middle of a scene, this big dramatic moment, and then the boom dips down.
Yeah.
Right? Now all of a sudden you're not in a movie, you're on set, and it's ruined. Right. And that to me is what you're kind of looking for, is like, if I'm on set and I see a scene happening, I mean, I like to let actors do their thing. Like, I have something in my head, but I also want to know what's in your head. The same way that, if I'm working with a cinematographer, I have something in my head, but what do you have? That all of that. I think everybody brings something great on set, and whatever I have, it's like, well, what do you have that might be better? And so I like seeing that in performances. That's one of the fun things for me is to watch a performance come to life and a character come to life. But if you see that happening and you say like, yeah, I see you saying lines, they're not yours yet. And I think that's the thing, is you have to try and find a way to make the lines yours. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, a super in-depth method thing to be a thespian, all these things. It's just a matter of how can you get the words to roll off your tongue in a way that you would say it.
Right.
If I can elaborate more, The Incoherents was also my first time acting in a movie. I did some shorts and stuff, but I play a character, a minor character in the film. And the first day that my character was supposed to speak, in a small little scene that ended up being cut from the movie anyway, I knew I didn't have it. I could hear myself acting, and I kept giving my lines away to the other actors that were in the scene, because I was like, I'm not helping this, and I don't need my ego to be more inflated by saying it. And I gave the lines away. And in between that performance and the next time that I had a scene, I only had a handful of them in there, I at home was like, all right, I know what sucked. How can I make these words sound like me? Not necessarily me, but like they're actually coming from my being, and not, lines that I'm trying to be cool or be this or be that.
Right.
And it was really helpful to rethink about how to just speak these words and be yourself and be loose and whatever else. And I think that helped also with the direction of, everybody else on set, because I knew what I was screwing up with. I was like, well, now I can help everybody else who might be having a similar issue.
But so in order to close this right, you have to plug your stuff. We're all guilty of it. So
no, absolutely.
Where can people find you? Where can people watch the movies that you put out and stuff like that?
Sure. Well, of course, you can follow me on Instagram, that I don't give a shit about. At Loaded Barrel Studios. So Loaded Barrel Studios is my production company, my comic book publishing company, my design studio, whatever you want to call it. Loaded Barrel Studios, which is also one of the reasons why nobody knows how to pronounce my name. Jared Burrell.
See?
Loaded Barrel. That's also why we named it that, because no one can pronounce my name anyway. But my Instagram is at Loaded Barrel Studios. On Facebook, Loaded Barrel Studios, loadedbarrelstudios.com. Where else? JaredBurrell.com. And of course, the movie, The Incoherents. You can learn more about that at theincoherents.com. We're streaming on Amazon. We're streaming on Epix. And you can rent us or buy the movie on iTunes, Google Play, Fandango Now, Xbox, PlayStation, pretty much almost anywhere that you can do VOD. I know certain cable platforms have it too, that you can rent it or demand it or whatever it is. But yeah, that's us.